correct. You can't deny the one thing you must concede to me. Despite you and I being on opposite poles regarding LeBron James, the man himself is acutely focused on his stats and figures. No way. The only thing LeBron fixates on is winning and losing. He has total respect for the game. The man fired off a tweet this weekend about his 43,000 points or some number like that, correct? Because somebody supposedly sent it to him. Someone else pointed out he also tweeted about eclipsing Dennis Rodman in total rebounds. He sure did, for his entire career. Yep, that says it all. It does. It says everything. He had the nerve. Do we have the clip of this? I believe we have the video. Yeah, we got the video. Perfect. I need to show you this. I want you to see your guy, your champion. Yet again, his nose is just getting longer and longer. Pinocchio. I need to hear this for myself. LeBron James got in front of a camera and declared, quote, "He has never been a numbers guy, to be honest." Those were his exact words. This is the very same LeBron James who built his identity around the number 23, who refused to leave a game against the Mavericks until he secured a triple-double, and who just tweeted about surpassing Dennis Rodman in career rebounds. The internet caught it, and the blowback was instant. Do you actually believe LeBron James couldn't care less about numbers? Or is this the most blatant self-contradiction he's ever uttered in public? Post your unfiltered opinion in the comments below. Let's roll that clip just one more time because, honestly, it gets more ridiculous with every listen. I'm confident in every shot I attempt. I could be shooting 0.0% from the three-point line. I still think I'm making the next one. I've been playing basketball my entire life, so I'm not really a numbers guy, if I'm being honest. LeBron James, sitting there on camera, spoke the following sentence: "I have never been a numbers guy, to be honest." He actually tacked on "to be honest" at the end, as if that little tag would somehow make the statement land as anything other than a complete joke. It is one of the most self-refuting statements a professional athlete has ever made on the record, and he delivered it with this serene, unwavering confidence that you can only develop when you've spent years being told you're right about everything, to the point you can no longer hear how absurd you sound. Not a numbers guy, to be honest. There goes LeBron James at it once more. This is exactly why people are now calling him LePinocchio. That's his new handle. Hold on a second, because the last time I checked, the Lakers were dismantling the Warriors. Yep, the last I saw, they managed to win 2 straight games against weak opponents this weekend. The Warriors were one of them. LeBron with 40-something points, playing back-to-back nights. But LePinocchio was up to his old tricks. What did he pull this time? That's what I'm saying. You know it's true. The one thing you have to grant me is this. Even though we are on completely different planets about LeBron James, that man is intensely preoccupied with statistics and numbers. Absolutely false. All LeBron is concerned with is winning. He honors the game. This is the guy with a tattoo of his own scoring records. The guy who chose number 23 for most of his career as a direct nod to Michael Jordan, which is a numerical claim about his legacy and where he stands. This is the guy who created a media frenzy when he passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the all-time scoring title and commemorated it with a crown gesture specifically choreographed to highlight a numerical achievement. This is the same man who tweeted about overtaking Dennis Rodman in career rebounds, supposedly because someone sent it to him and he just had to make sure the entire world knew about it. The dude blasted a tweet over the weekend. 43,000 points or thereabouts, right? Because someone allegedly sent it to his phone. Oh, and he also posted a tweet bragging that he passed Dennis Rodman in total rebounds. He did in his career. Yeah, that tells you everything. It does. It tells you everything you need to know. That last point deserves a moment of reflection. Surpassing Dennis Rodman in career rebounds. Let's be clear, Dennis Rodman is the single greatest rebounder of the modern NBA era. He topped the league in rebounding for 7 straight seasons. His whole professional worth was founded on handling the dirty work that the stat chasers never wanted to own as their main job. And LeBron tweeted about passing him in career totals, not because there was any demand for it, but because somebody sent it to him and he broadcasted it for everyone to see. That is precisely what a person who isn't a numbers guy does. Apparently, says the guy with the number 23 patch stitched on his uniform. Says the guy who put a crown on his head after passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the greatest scorer ever. I've never been about the numbers. This from the guy who sits out against the Spurs but played against the Mavericks and refused to leave the court until he got his triple-double. And then when Austin Reeves grabbed a rebound near him, he got visibly angry at Reeves because it interfered with his triple-double hunt. There's no evidence of that. Yes, we have total proof of that. That triple-double incident is what absolutely demolishes his not a numbers guy narrative. There is recorded proof, not a rumor, not a secondhand story, but documented proof of LeBron staying in a blowout game against the Mavericks just to chase down a triple-double. And when Austin Reeves, his own teammate, snatched a rebound that would have gone toward that stat line before LeBron reached it, LeBron was clearly agitated over a rebound in a decided game that his teammate secured instead of him. And if the basketball isn't touched and the contact with the rim doesn't create an unnatural carom, a person who doesn't obsess over numbers would never get infuriated about a rebound in that situation. A person who isn't obsessed with numbers doesn't prolong his minutes in a game solely to hit a statistical target. A guy who claims to not care about stats doesn't hop on Twitter to announce he passed a Hall of Famer in some obscure category mere hours after it happened. Let's be real. Numbers are to LeBron James what water is to a fish. They're the very element he exists in. For 2 decades, his entire career has been framed, glorified, and defended through the prism of statistics. The scoring title, the assists, the rebounds, the rings, the playoff runs, the ridiculous longevity. It's all one giant argument built on numbers. The whole LeBron versus Michael Jordan spectacle is just a statistical showdown dressed up to look like some deep philosophical debate. And for his entire career, LeBron has been one of the most enthusiastic participants in that very debate. So when he sits there and says with a straight face that, to be honest, he's never been a numbers guy, the only rational thing to do is rewind it 4 or 5 times and let that breathtaking hypocrisy hang in the air. Now, let's pivot to the Lakers' actual situation, because this number charade is directly connected to the mess we see on the court. The team managed to win 2 games in a row this past weekend. They beat the Warriors on Saturday after winning another one before that. And like clockwork, certain media hacks immediately started screaming that the Lakers were back and had finally figured it all out. It was that textbook narrative reset that Charles Barkley correctly calls contractually obligated coverage. They won a couple games, so now they're back. Time to talk about the Lakers as serious contenders again. Never mind that, for context, the Warriors were missing Stephen Curry, Kristaps Porzingis, and Jimmy Butler. The team they trotted out there was the basketball version of a preseason practice squad. The Lakers won by 24. And the very same media that was just burying them for 3 straight losses to terrible teams was now selling a win against a team of backups as proof of their championship DNA. The Lakers are the current 6th seed in the Western Conference, which means they are 2 games away from the play-in tournament. That's not 2 games from a top 4 seed. That's 2 games from having to desperately claw their way into the playoffs instead of just getting in. This is the brutal reality for a team featuring both LeBron James and Luka Dončić on the floor. And that brings us to the Luka and JJ Redick fiasco, which is its own special brand of Lakers circus entertainment. In a recent game where Luka dropped 40 points, Redick grabbed his arm on the sideline and told him to actually try playing defense. Luka's response wasn't exactly a respectful acknowledgement of his coach's point. He didn't just nod and get back to business. Luka literally told his head coach to shut up, right there on the sideline for the cameras to catch. And when Redick kept pushing his point, because that's what a coach is supposed to do, when his superstar scores 40 while playing 0 defense, Luka actually escalated the confrontation. He ordered Redick not to turn his back on him. He demanded his coach face him. A player telling his head coach not to turn his back on him is not some small sideline squabble. That is a clear sign of a relationship operating at a spectacular level of dysfunction. The kind you don't just patch up in a film session. A player doesn't explode at his coach like that with cameras everywhere unless something toxic has been festering beneath the surface for a very long time. The whole dynamic makes a twisted kind of sense when you realize what Redick is trying to manage here. He's got Luka Dončić, who is an absolute offensive wizard and also one of the most disengaged defenders in the entire league. He's got LeBron James, who at 40 years old is posting the worst defensive rating of his entire 23-year career. He's got Austin Reeves, who is a fine role player but is nowhere near the elite 2-way guy you need to cover for 2 superstars who refuse to play defense. And as a result, he has a team defense ranked 24th in the league. Of course, Redick grabbed Luka's arm. The defense has to start somewhere. If LeBron isn't going to supply it, and all the data says he absolutely is not this season, then the burden of this team's defensive identity falls on Luka. And Luka's reaction to that request was to humiliate his coach on national television. An argument is now gaining steam, and it's a deeply uncomfortable one for the LeBron loyalists. The argument is that the Lakers have actually looked better in stretches with LeBron on the bench than they do with him in the game. Not for a full 48 minutes, and not over the course of a season, but in specific bursts where the defensive effort skyrockets because there's one less ball dominant offense-only non-defender on the court. That's not praise for the players who come in. It's a scathing indictment of what the three-man lineup of LeBron, Luka, and Reeves generates on the defensive end. The fact that this starting trio is outscored by 8.4, 4 points per 100 possessions, is a number. It's a specific, documented, undeniable number. And the guy who says he's not a numbers guy, to be honest, is at the very center of it. The bigger question about LeBron's future with the franchise is also directly tied to the numbers. He's 40 years old. His contract needs to be sorted out. The window for this particular roster to compete isn't just closing. It's being slammed shut with every passing week. And the Western Conference gauntlet that's waiting for them in April is loaded with teams like Oklahoma City, Houston, and Denver. Those are teams with athleticism, defensive schemes, and solid foundations that a 24th ranked defense has absolutely no prayer of stopping in a 7-game series. The talk about whether LeBron should move to the bench has been floated, and it's not going away. The case for it is painfully obvious. If you have a rotation that actually functions defensively when he's not starting, then bringing him off the bench transforms him into an offensive juggernaut against second units, all without torpedoing your defensive game plan from the opening tip. The argument against it has nothing to do with basketball. It's that LeBron James does not come off the bench, not because the strategy is flawed, but because his ego won't permit it. A man who tweets about passing Dennis Rodman in rebounds and who stays in garbage time to chase triple-doubles is not the kind of guy who's going to quietly accept a six-man role. That would require a reality check that neither the Lakers organization nor LeBron himself seems prepared to face. JJ Redick grabbed Luka by the arm and was told to shut up. That's the price you pay for trying to hold a star accountable in that franchise. The notion that anybody is going to have a successful chat with LeBron James about his role in the rotation is a complete work of fiction. And so, the Lakers will remain stuck as the 6th seed, managing to beat up on pathetic teams when their stars are actually trying and the other side is missing key players. They'll also get embarrassed by teams they have no business losing to the moment their defense completely falls apart in the 4th. And through it all, LeBron James is going to keep tweeting about his personal stats, shamelessly stay in games to pad his triple-double count, and then tell reporters with a straight face that he's never been about the numbers. Let's be real, the most hilarious part of this whole thing isn't even the ridiculous quote itself. It's the sheer, unadulterated confidence. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't defensive. He said it with the kind of certainty that only comes from someone who has completely bought into their own lies, which means somewhere along the way, while becoming the most statistically obsessed basketball player in the sport's history, LeBron James somehow decided that the stats were just happening times to times him. Not that he was actively hunting them down. Jordan says he took down 2 Iranian ballistic missiles. Quoting here, LeBron never did that. You know what else LeBron never did? Go a single week without blasting out a tweet about some personal record. But that's a stats thing, and we all know he's never been a numbers guy. The guy wearing 23, tweeting about his career rebounds and chasing triple-doubles and blowouts, just said he's not about the numbers. The Lakers are the 6th seed. Luka literally told his coach to shut up on national television. And Charles Barkley is still on the sidelines howling at this whole circus. Hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you really think down below.